Overhead lighting is an effective way to light up a room, but it's not as useful if you're looking to shoot high-quality videos or photos. Consider the positions of the lights used by photographers taking school pictures, or the angle of stage lights relative to an actor in a play. In both cases, you get better results by having the light sources angled to illuminate the person's face directly rather than lighting up the top of their head. The same goes for video. This lab has several small lighting kits that you can check out from the office. Each kit comes with a power adapter, a pair of batteries, an adjustable mount, an LED light panel, and a removable diffusion filter, though it's advised that you just keep it on the light at all times. Each component is labeled to match the tag looped around the handle of its case. The power adapter gives you the option to plug one of these lights directly into an outlet, but you're probably better off relying on the batteries and not being tethered to a wall. The batteries also don't present the same tripping hazard. You'll also need a light stand to mount the panel on, as well as a sandbag to weigh it down and keep it from tipping over in the event that the stand gets bumped. Here's the basics of setting up one of these lights, starting with the light stand. Open the twist lock at the top of the legs. Be careful though, the bolt underneath isn't very long and the knob could pop off pretty easily. Pull each of the legs out away from the center column, then push down on the top fixture like you'd open an umbrella. When you've got a wide enough base, 2 feet between the end of each leg should do, close the lock. Set a sandbag around the base of the center column for support. Open the 2 twist locks at the top of the stand and adjust its height. Screw the adjustable mount onto the top of the light stand. Slot one of the batteries into the light panel and screw the light panel onto the adjustable mount. Turn on the light by pressing and holding the round button on the back of the panel, and turn it like a wheel to adjust the brightness, the level of which is indicated by the display next to the wheel. Generally speaking, you'll want to set the stand's height to be even with or slightly higher than your subject's eye line. If needed, you can open one of the column's locks and rotate it to adjust the orientation of the light on top. You could leave it at that, a single decent light, and get okay results. But if you really want to make your videos look good, you'll want to take advantage of a fundamental method known as 3-point lighting, which refers to, you guessed it, 3 lights being used in the setup. Start by imagining a straight line running between your subject and the camera. You'll use that line as the axis around which you'll arrange your lights. The first point in the setup, and the brightest light, is your key light, which can be placed on either side of the line. Now imagine the key light forming an angle with the camera with your subject as the vertex. The closer the key light is to the camera, the more narrow the angle. The more narrow the angle, the fewer shadows being cast on your subject, and the flatter the image will appear. For more dynamic, dramatic shots, consider moving the key light to form a 45-degree angle with the camera and the subject. The shadows cast on the subject's face can help convey a sense of depth and three-dimensionality. I'll mention also that you can raise the light and use the adjustable mount to angle the light down at the subject to form another 45-degree angle. This can be really helpful if your subject wears glasses because it reduces the likelihood that your key light or any of your other lights will produce a distracting glare on their lenses. The second of the 3 points is known as the fill light, and its purpose is to soften the shadows cast by the key light. Coming back to the subject camera axis, your fill light should be placed on the opposite side of the line from the key light, and also closer to said axis. If the key light and fill light are positioned at similar angles, you risk producing a second set of shadows, which is not the goal. Your key light should always be brighter or more intense than your fill light, but you can adjust the brightness of the fill light to control the contrast. Last is the backlight or rim light, which is used to further distinguish the subject from the background. The backlight, as the name implies, is placed behind the subject, and it can go on either side of the axis, preferably out of view of the camera. Now, you may not always have the flexibility provided by an ample shooting environment and multiple adjustable lights, and that's okay. You can still take advantage of this method if you get creative. You can think of the order in which I listed the 3 lights as a priority ranking of sorts. You can get by without a rim light, and sometimes even without a fill light, but you should always aim to have a good key light. Speaking of your key light, if it's sunny, consider setting up near a window and using the natural light as your key light. You certainly don't want to be competing with it, that's for sure. If you have to move some lamps around, so be it. Don't worry if your setup looks a bit messy while shooting. What matters is what's visible within the frame of the camera. Safety matters too, of course, but I would hope that's a given. Speaking of how things look in camera, that'll be the subject of the next video.